Both shots! Woo! How about that one?
That's our new leaders right there.
Big Silly!
University of Montevallo, 24-96.
The University of Montevallo wins its third straight title.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into a new episode of the Rapala We Are Collegiate Bass Podcast. Today's guests, Lucas Bowers and Fisher Rodgers from top 50 ranked University of South Carolina. They finished runners-up, second place at the Collegiate Bass Fishing Championship presented by Bass Pro Shops just a few weeks ago there on Pickwick Lake. Lucas, real quick, man, big tournament like that, elite field of 200 teams qualified to compete there at the championship event on Pickwick Lake in Florence, Alabama. Talk about being able to finish in second in such a prestigious field.
It was really just to, number one, be able to qualify for this tournament and get out there and, to execute the game plan that we came up with in practice. That top 200 field that we competed against are the absolute best of the best in our sport of college bass fishing. And it's truly an honor to, number one, to be able to be out there, and it is very exciting and, very, very, good for the school and good for the team to be able to, come out with a second place finish.
Yeah, definitely something to be proud of. Nothing to hang your hat on. It's always hard to finish in second place and be the runner-up. We've had teams on before that it seems like every time we have them on, they're not talking about winning, but they're talking about finishing in second. And when you break it down at the end of the day, to be in a spot like that, major tournament, major national scene, it's definitely something to be proud of. Fisher, man, same question real quick for you before we jump into specifics of the event and how everything played out. Yourself, finishing in second place, maybe one of the biggest, best finishes you've had in your young fishing career. Talk about that.
Yeah, man, it was awesome. It was an incredible experience just to be able to come up with a plan in practice and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. Go out there and just get it done. Have one of the best fishing days of my life. Go out there and catch 25 pounds was almost, just surreal how much fun it was. It was just an incredible experience, and especially it being at the national championship, not just any other regular tournament. So it just made for an incredible day, or incredible week.
Let's talk about that game plan as y'all were coming out of practice. Something that we hit on before we started this interview was on a couple days of the practice, maybe you didn't even catch a bass. Now, whether that was intentional or not, we'll let you answer that. But Lucas, talk real quick. Coming out of practice, what did y'all found or maybe not found, and how did that formulate into a game plan for 2 days of tournament competition?
So going into this tournament, me and Fisher approached it with, this is an entirely new lake approach, because I've had previous experience on Pickwick, but it was different times of the year. It was more early spring when I fished the Pickwick Slam last year, but we knew those fish were going to be out on the ledges, and that's, late May, early June. That's what everybody talks about for these TBA lakes, is these fish are going to get offshore. They're going to get on these ledges, current facing points, shell bars, hot spot or hard spots, you name it. So we knew going into it what we had to look for in order to not only be competitive, but to put ourselves in a situation where we could potentially hook up with winning or, second place caliber fish. So first day of practice, we went out and over the course of the 4 days of practice, we idled and scanned for like anywhere from 16 to 18 hours when we kind of timed it. But, we were looking for those areas that were close to spawning areas, but on the river channel where the current would be, causing those eddies and vortices that those fish sit in and wait for the bait fish to come to them. So we knew what we were looking for, but we didn't quite know what we were looking for, if that makes sense. We found several schools of fish that were not bass. They were carp, drum, you name it. And day one of practice, the only fish we caught was one white bass and a catfish. And then day two, we actually found our main spot that we ended up, catching 19 pounds on day one and 25-12 with a dead fish. So it was 24-62, I believe, on day two. We had a secondary spot not far away that we caught, I believe, 2 fish in the 2 days that we weighed in, but the bulk of our weight came off of one spot, and it was a current-facing point with shell on the top of it. And same thing for our secondary spot. It was a current breaking a ledge that also had a shell bar with a school of fish on it. And Fisher's, I think, second cast on the second day of practice, he caught like a 4-pounder. And we were around a lot of boats, so we unhooked it by the boat and let it go. And we were like, there's more than likely some very good fish here. And we moved on, covered some more water, found additional schools of fish. Our main spot was up above the Notches Bridge. So on day 3, we were like, let's go on down on the lower end of the lake and look at some of those ledges down there. And we found what seemed to be larger schools, but not quite the quality of fish in them. But it was, always something to run to, something in the back of our minds. But 2 good spots we found above the bridge, we were like, this is where we need to spend the bulk of our time. We know there's good fish here, but there's a lot of fish here. So let's try to go make it happen. Day 4, we continued trying to scan around. We didn't find a whole lot. And then we went back and rechecked all the spots that we found fish just to make sure those schools were, staying in place. And indeed they were. And come around, during the tournament, they were still there.
Let's talk about that day 1 now. Coming out of practice, you guys found the fish that you did, knew that you were on good caliber, found different places as we were talking about. So Fisher, we heard a couple days of practice breakdown from Lucas. Day 1 of tournament competition for y'all yielded 19.12 pounds. Your largest bag in that 5 bass limit, or largest bass in that bag of 5 bass limit was 6.75 pounds, of which we have on camera. We've got it shared on social media, and obviously will most likely be featured inside the television show to come later on as well. Talk about that day 1 and how it all played out.
Yeah, that was an awesome memory. So we started out, we blast off, we're middle of the field and hoping to get to our spot, nobody to be there. We get to our spot and there's 5 people sitting on it. So, ledge fishing down there, everybody kind of joins in with everybody. So we kind of ease into the pack and they slowly start moving off one by one, and we were able to ease onto the spot we wanted to get on. And we got on it and we started, catching a few fish. I think we ended up probably with about 15 pounds in the box and was able to finally connect with that one once the camera guy got in with us. We connected with the big one that really pushed us up. But after we had exhausted that spot, we weren't getting very many bites. We said, hey, we're kind of confused why we're not getting many bites. We were like, the fish are probably pressured. So we actually idled over them to realize that later in the day those fish actually moved from off of the flat to the ledge, and then once they moved from the ledge, they then moved to the point in the ledge. And so once we were able to figure that out, we were more excited about coming back for day 2 because we kind of knew where to cast, where the fish were going to go, and it just led up to lead to that awesome day 2 we had. But it was just that work that we put in after the first day. Even after we were done catching our fish, once we caught. We had that 19 pounds, went to another spot just to check them, and it was just 3-pounder after 3-pounder after 3-pounder. So we left those for day 2 as well. Ended up not needing 3-pounders, but it was an awesome day.
As it pertains to baits, presentations, what you're throwing at these fish, we previewed it. We heard about it on stage. A little bit of everything was in play over those 2 days of tournament competition, talking about the Collegiate Bass Fishing Championship presented by Bass Pro Shops. And Lucas, let's talk about what y'all were offering at those fish. Did you have a whole array of things that you were throwing, or did you have a nice tight rotation of 2, 3, 4 baits, and y'all were working that to perfection to be able to get these fish to bite?
When it came down to it, as far as connecting with the fish, it was 2 main baits. However, during practice, we tried to find that reaction bite, throwing the deep diving crankbait, throwing the hair jig, the spoon, the scrounger with the jerky J, all of the stereotypical Tennessee River baits, but we just were not getting bites. And even shaking a minnow, it was really tough. But what we found out during practice is that those fish, we could get bites dragging. So my main bait that I threw during the tournament was a Berkeley Maxent Mag Hitworm and Plum Apple on a 3/8 ounce shaky head, and Fisher stuck with a 3/4 ounce PB&J football jig. And it seemed during practice we were both catching, roughly the same number on 2 different baits. So during the tournament, he locked the jig in his hand, I locked the worm in my hand, and here and there I had the big crankbait, the hair jig, the spoon tied up, ready to go. And we made a couple casts with that stuff, but we never caught a single fish on a reaction bait. It was all on the big worm and the football jig.
That's crazy to hear. You always hear about trying to get these schools fired up or different things like that. And as electronics have evolved and we're getting a better idea of what's taking place under the water with tools like Garmin LiveScope, you see that maybe that's not what it takes. And being able to soak these baits, like you're saying, or to have a better understanding of how they're setting up can make you be more efficient and effective in the way that you target them, as it sounds like y'all did with those presentations. We're talking with Lucas Bowers and Fisher Rodgers from the University of South Carolina, finished in second place at the Collegiate Bass Fishing Championship presented by Bass Pro Shops. 2-day total weight of 43.74 pounds. Entered the final day of competition in 10th. Ended up bringing one of the biggest bags of day 2 to the scales. Final weight on that one was 24.62 to be able to jump y'all up from 10th into second. Fisher, day 2, tell me how it all went down.
So day 2, we were debating, like I said, so the first day we left a spot that had, a ton of quality fish. I mean, it was loaded and they were just biting as soon as the bait hit the bottom. And so we were kind of debating whether to start on that place and just fill out a nice quality limit and just say, hey, we'll go fish for big fish after that, or did we just want to go try to and what ended up leading our decision is, 5 people started on that spot on day 1, and a lot of people seen a spot on that spot on day 1, so we decided to just go with it and kind of play defense a little bit, because people knew we were going to be there. People knew we caught 19 pounds. And so we started on that spot, and we started out, we were getting bites. We were catching, I think we started out with like a 16-pound limit off of that spot. We ended up culling to probably about 19 pounds before we left there, and then went to the spot where they were 3-pounders, and I think the first or second fish we caught was a 5-pounder, which was quite a surprise. So then that was when, this big, huge storm came up out of nowhere. So we ended up leaving both of our spots to go under a dock because of, taking shelter, come back out, make 2 casts, and catch a almost 4-pound smallmouth, 3-pound, 12 ounces or something like that. So we left again. We come back, I think we caught 13 fish in like 20 minutes off that spot. Nothing really helped us, a few ounces. Ended up going back to our spot. We had about 21 pounds at that time. Go back to that spot we sat on all day of day 1, and Lucas ends up catching a 5-pound even, and then about 2 seconds later I fire into that school and end up catching a 5.14. And with the throwing the power baits, everybody is like, you get the school fired up, and you can catch. With a power bait you can catch 6 or 8, at a time. But what we found out was that even though we were only catching a few, once you caught one out of that school, you could throw back in there and catch another one. Generally, it was only about 2 you could catch out of the school, because then we had fish we had to cull and work with and, all that stuff. But I felt like if we could keep the bait in there, we kept getting bites, and then the school kind of moved and you had to re-find them. But once we were able to do that, we were able to truly capitalize on them.
Yeah, it's always fun to see anglers go out and have even more success on day 2. I think as you watch tournaments, especially in the 4-day tournament format, but a 2-day tournament as we have here, you often see the day 1 weights be the larger weights, and on day 2 it takes a little less. But if you can find a way to improve on day 2, then you're definitely going to move up in the standings, as you guys did, jump in 9 places. Lucas, what would you attribute the day 2 bigger weight to? Did you lean on the fish a little harder? Did you have a better idea because you were able to practice more on day 1 once you secured that 19 pounds? Or was it a little bit of the conditions coming into play as there was clouds and rain, and it maybe made the fish more apt to bite?
I think it was a multitude of different factors that led to those fish, led to us catching a bigger bag on day 2. I think the biggest thing was us, after day 1, we knew where those fish moved to later in the day once they started moving more water. So, as the day went on, we knew exactly where those fish were going to be. And also with that system moving through the weather system, I also think that contributed to them being more willing to bite.
Yeah, for sure. That was something that we were going to watch throughout the week as that forecast was playing out. There was a chance of some rain, some clouds. There had been current a couple of weeks prior with other storms as the South's been saturated throughout April and May. And so definitely something to have kept an eye on. And it did end up playing a factor as day one was pretty status quo, normal summer day out on Pickwick Lake and the Tennessee River. And then we had some weather come in and we saw several bags in that 24-pound range, with y'all being one of them on day two of competition. Fisher, payout for y'all $2,500, as well as valuable points towards the Bass Pro Shop School of the Year presented by Abu Garcia. Just your thoughts real quick. No entry fee tournament, national championship like this, obviously to finish runner-up is a big accomplishment. Then to have the payoffs and the accolades that follow, what does that mean to y'all?
Yeah, it means everything. Just having this be this is only my personal second college event I've ever fished, and to do so well in the national championship was just an amazing experience. The ACA does such an amazing job. Y'all feed us. It's such a welcoming atmosphere. Everybody's so, it's like just a warm environment to be in and grow as a fisherman. And a lot of times you are able to just grow and learn and all have a great time in college. And like the no entry fee is just such a huge to a college angler that, you're not always have money, everywhere. So it's an awesome time, and we're just able to have a great time out there on the lake.
Last question, Lucas, as we get ready to wrap this up, man. Let's talk real quick for the team. Currently in 42nd for the Bass Pro Shop School of the Year presented by Abu Garcia. So y'all strong showing there with those second-place points helps jump the team up into the top 50 for your program to finish out the year as y'all are getting ready for another tournament real quick. And then we jump into the next season, kind of talk about the plan for the team and the momentum that y'all are building as we talk about the national rankings in that Bass Pro Shop School of the Year presented by Abu Garcia.
It's really nice to be able to finally start moving up in the School of the Year standings. Back in, I believe it was 2015 and 2016, our team won back-to-back national championships. I believe one was with the FLW and one was with Bassmaster. And we kind of rode that wave for a while, and then the University of South Carolina Gamecock Bass Fishing team kind of fell off the map per se. We had a group of guys come through that just didn't put in a whole lot of effort. We're a student-led organization. We don't have scholarships. We don't have school funding and stuff. So it was a hard time there for a while. But 2021, I believe we had a group of guys come through that really got this team back on the right track, and club-wise and camaraderie-wise. But finally, I feel like we're starting to make a push, on the actual fishing side of things. We have a lot of talent coming in. Fisher, this is his first season fishing with us. He came in the spring of 2024. And we have several other young guys that are showing a lot of promise of being very good and talented anglers. So I really have high hopes for the future of this program, and I really hope that we continue to build, on our performance for years to come. I recently got accepted into the graduate school at University of South Carolina, so I have 2 years of eligibility left. I'll be around for a little bit longer, and Fisher, he's going to be around for a few years, and all of these young guys we have, I really think that we're going to have a good future moving forward with the team.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting to see how that can kind of catapult a program and bring a little bit of life, some energy. It obviously takes anglers like yourselves to infuse that energy into the team and have success like that. People are going to see it on social media, on the internet, on television, and it draws interest and awareness to the program that's going to pay off on down the line for sure. So, team to look out for, University of South Carolina. We just spoke with Lucas Bowers and Fisher Rodgers, runner-up, second place finish at the Collegiate Bass Fishing Championship presented by Bass Pro Shops just a few weeks ago. Man, good luck at your upcoming event, and we hope to see y'all out on our trail here next season.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. We'll see y'all.
To it.
Welcome to Minnow King. How can I help you?
Everything looks good. I'm friggin' starving, man. Been spawning all morning.
Ugh, TMI, bro. What do you want?
I'll take a Crush City freeloader and gizzard shad.
Anything to drink?
Water.
Pull ahead, please. Welcome to Minnow King.
We're gonna have what he's had. Yeah, throw me in a net BLT too.
Pull ahead, please.
Calm down. Quit feeding him so much.
Hey, man, I'm trying to, man. If you
overfeed him, he's gonna hide under a log.